In what should be a surprise to absolutely nobody, Caitlin Clark has been named most valuable player. Puerto Rico got into the World Cup. Wow. But Caitlin Clark got named most valuable player.
Look at that energy. 3 in the morning, exhausted, barely coherent. But he had to make this video immediately. Because when Caitlin Clark gets named MVP of an international tournament, after 8 months away from basketball, that's not just news. That's validation of something we've been watching build for 2 years now. And the most telling part? Nobody's even arguing about it this time.
It was obviously going to Caitlin Clark. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, there's no real question about that. Like, over the 5 games, she was the best player. When you accumulate the stats, it's what it comes out to. There's not much of an argument otherwise. And if you want to say, oh, she was the MVP because Kalia Copper sat a game out. Like, that's a fact. But, yeah.
Here's what makes this different from every other Caitlin Clark award this year. The Rookie of the Year debate turned into a months-long war that fractured the entire fan base. People were pulling up defensive metrics, rebounding percentages, advanced analytics, anything to justify their position. But this MVP announcement? Silence from the critics. Even the most dedicated haters couldn't find an angle to diminish this one. And that tells you everything about how she performed over those 5 games.
Trying to get to 570.5k by the end of the day, and we're 20 subscribers off. And lads, it is currently 3 a.m. where I am. I am in all the bits. I'm in bits right now, trying to make this video, and I'm just after taking an hour nap and woke up, and I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so we gotta talk.
20 subscribers away from a milestone at 3 in the morning, making content in absolute shambles because the moment demanded it. That's the Caitlin Clark effect on content creators. But let's talk about the actual performance that made this MVP award so undeniable. Led Team USA in total points, led in assists per game, was in the top 3 for efficiency rating. The statistical dominance was so complete that even mentioning other candidates feels like a courtesy rather than a legitimate debate.
Oh my god, I can't wait to see the Caitlin Clark haters. And by the way, do you guys know who won the MVP vote? I think it was Amani McGee-Stafford. I think Angel Reese won it in the end, and it was Angel because of the bots. I think it was Angel, Amani McGee-Stafford, Caitlin Clark. Paige Becker's Caitlin Clark. I think, congrats, Caitlin. Was there any doubt? Took 8 months off and won. Did all that defensive nitpicking, and many people gotta be like, there's both ends. Well, yes, but they won every game. They won by an average of like 40 points. So
now this is where it gets interesting. The fan vote apparently went to Angel Reese, possibly influenced by bot activity, with Azzy Fudd and Paige Buchers also in the mix. But here's what separates legitimate awards from popularity contests. The media voters, the people who actually watched every possession of every game, gave it to Caitlin without hesitation, because when you're winning games by an average of 40 points, individual defense becomes almost irrelevant as a measuring stick. The offensive brilliance was so overwhelming that it rendered the usual counter-arguments meaningless.
A bit less of the old Caitlin Clark hater situation. A bit less of that than I thought. A bit less of it than I thought. Oh, maybe tomorrow we get the old people talking about Caitlin Clark in a negative way again after winning her MVP. When this was obviously a media award, and it was hard to vote anyone other than Caitlin Clark. It was hard to vote anyone other than Caitlin Clark, for being honest.
That comparison to A'ja Wilson is crucial. Right now, arguing that Caitlin Clark isn't the best guard in women's basketball requires ignoring what we just watched. Not the best player overall, that's still A'ja's throne. But at the guard position, the gap between Caitlin and everyone else is widening, not closing. And what makes this MVP award significant is that it came after 8 months away from competitive basketball. Most players would need weeks to shake off that rust. She showed up and immediately dominated an international tournament.
It was never really in doubt. Like, there's a reason why I took an hour nap and woke up now, because I knew she was going to be named MVP. I knew she was going to be named MVP. So, who was the All-Star 5? I'll be interested to see who the All-Star 5 was. Obviously, Caitlin getting named MVP is kind of cool. Okay, so they gave her the MVP trophy. I'm surprised they didn't name the full All-Star 5. Or did they?
Look at that physical transformation he's describing. She slimmed down significantly during the break, and the impact on her mobility was immediate and obvious. During the back half of the WNBA season, even when supposedly healthy, she looked slower. The burst wasn't there. The separation on drives felt labored, but in this tournament, she looked like Iowa Caitlin Clark again. Quick first step, explosive changes of direction, that effortless acceleration that makes her passing angles possible. The 8-month break wasn't a setback, it was exactly what her body needed after 2 brutal years of non-stop basketball.
An 8-month break playing basketball. That's big. That is big. And look, she looked healthy. She looked like she was moving well. She slimmed down a lot, which is really good for how Caitlin plays. Like, the bulk last year could not have. I'm not gonna blame the bulk for the injuries, but she looked slower even when she was quote unquote healthy. She looked slower. She's looking herself again, and hopefully we get a season. The odds of there being a season is very high. The odds of there being a season that's not delayed, I don't know. I think they'll delay training camp, they'll delay preseason, because like there's like a 2-week gap between the start of preseason games and the start of the season.
Here's the part that matters for the upcoming WNBA season. Training camp is almost certainly going to be delayed because of the ongoing CBA negotiations, probably losing the first week of preseason games, but the regular season itself will happen. And what we just saw in this tournament is a preview of what a healthy, rested Caitlin Clark looks like against elite competition. The league should be terrified, because if she can dominate like this after 8 months off, imagine what she'll do with a full training camp and no lingering injuries.
Player in the world, go play her game and continue to kind of just do her thing. Continue to do what she does. Continue to hoop. Continue to be the best guard in the sport. And I'm going to be honest, like, I don't think Caitlin Clark's the best player in the sport, but she's the best guard in the sport. And let's be very real. Like, basketball from an entertainment standpoint, which it is. People are like, oh, you know, people just care about those logo threes. Like, well, it matters. Those passes, those logo threes, they're the reason you watch. The can't miss plays that Caitlin Clark can make on any given possession. We saw one of them every game here. That's why you watch. That's why you tune into sports. There are moments. And you know, any given possession when Caitlin Clark, unless she's being played off the ball and being told to play small forward, on any given possession, Caitlin Clark has an ability to pull off something magic. And that is, for me, one of those things with Caitlin Clark is like, it's one of the biggest reasons why I kind of got into it, is that just on the purest level, with the way modern basketball is going, with the analytic takeover of modern basketball, with the way things are going, there are with like the sport becomes about moments. And for me, you're seeing Caitlin Clark just be able to, what she does and how she does it, like, that kind of brings that kind of the joy back into watching the sport in that regard. But anyway, yeah, that's the video. Congratulations, Kate.
This is what separates transcendent players from merely great ones. The camp passes that shouldn't be possible. The logo threes that defy defensive schemes. The ability to create a highlight-worthy moment on literally any possession. Modern basketball has become increasingly analytical, increasingly systematic, increasingly predictable. Every team runs similar actions, hunts similar matchups, takes similar shots. It's efficient, but it's sterile. Then Caitlin Clark brings the ball up the court, and suddenly anything can happen. A no-look pass through 3 defenders. A pull-up 3 from 30 feet that goes in before the defense can even react. A behind-the-back dime in transition that makes you rewind the footage just to understand how she saw the angle. That's not just skill, that's artistry, and it's the reason casual fans who don't normally watch women's basketball will tune in specifically to watch her play. The entertainment value is undeniable, but here's what gets overlooked. Those magical moments aren't just aesthetically pleasing, they're winning basketball. Those camp passes lead to wide-open layups. Those logo threes break defensive schemes. The threat of her doing something spectacular on any possession warps how defenses have to guard her, which creates opportunities for everyone else. The Indiana Fever went from lottery team to playoff contender in one season primarily because adding Caitlin Clark changed the geometry of how opponents had to defend them. And now she's coming back for year 2, healthy, rested, and fresh off an MVP performance against international competition. The WNBA has a Caitlin Clark problem. Not a controversy problem, not a media circus problem, a competitive balance problem. Because the gap between her and everyone else at her position isn't closing, it's getting wider. Think about what this MVP award represents in context. She hadn't played competitive basketball in 8 months. Most of these other players were either in overseas leagues staying sharp or had been training consistently. Caitlin took time completely away from the game, came back, and immediately proved she's still operating on a different level. That's not normal. That's generational talent asserting itself regardless of circumstances. The criticism about defense will never fully go away, and honestly, it shouldn't be dismissed entirely. She's not an elite defender, probably never will be, but when you're winning games by 40 points on average, when you're leading in points and assists while maintaining elite efficiency, the defensive limitations become acceptable trade-offs. No player is perfect. The question is whether your strengths outweigh your weaknesses enough to be the most valuable player on the court. And over those 5 games, the answer was undeniably yes. What makes this different from the rookie